Hey everybody, welcome back to US History. So today we're talking about struggling to survive the Depression. So we're going to talk about what life was like for those that lived during the Depression. So go ahead and get your notes out and let's get started. So, some effects of the Depression. In cities, shantytowns were established. These were little towns consisting of shacks, typically on the outskirts of cities or in parks. Typically, these shacks would be made out of anything from wood, metal, cardboard, basically anything anybody could get their hands on. Soup kitchens and bread lines would be established, and charitable organizations would offer free food to the poor. In some cities, the lines of people waiting to be fed extended for miles. So, talking about the impact on minorities. For African Americans and Latinos, there was an increase in racial violence. And in 1933 alone, 24 African Americans were lynched, meaning they were hung. Now, that's not the only issue happening in the United States. On top of the Great Depression, we also have to add the Dust Bowl, a major drought extending from North Dakota to Texas. Now, in the 1920s, farmers had exhausted the land through overproduction of crops and had basically drained all the minerals and nutrients out of the soil. The 30s brought drought and winds. So, very dry soil was being picked up by these strong winds and carrying it everywhere. Now, thousands of farmers had left their farms and headed west. These migrants, or Okies, followed Route 66 to California in an attempt to find new jobs. So, the effects on the family. Surprisingly enough, even though how harsh the Depression was, the family was a source of strength. This is also the period of hobos, or men who wanted the country looking for work. They hitched rides on boxcars, slept under bridges and homeless shelters, and they often left their families behind and sent whatever they earned back to their families. Women worked hard inside and outside of the home. They were often ashamed of their condition if their homes were being lost or if they had to downgrade things. Children suffered malnutrition due to the lack of food. Schools closed. Roughly 2,600 schools closed due to the Depression, and many children went to work in the factories to support their families. Now, the other big side was the effect on people's mental health. Now, between 1928 and 1932, the suicide rate went up by 30%. And 3 times as many people were admitted to mental hospitals than they had in the years prior. Now, people began to make sacrifices as well to what they could afford. They stopped seeing doctors and dentists and other normal appointments that we take for granted. And dreams of college, marriage, and families were gone for a lot of people because they could no longer afford them. So that's it for notes for today. What you're going to do now is there is a Stanford History Education Group packet on the Dust Bowl you're going to do today. You can either do it online or on paper. The paper copies should be located at the front of the room. Please remember, if you're doing that, make sure you write your name on it, and I will collect those next class. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.